I am 105 years old. I am a survivor of the Second World War. My body is fragile, worn by time, but my mind holds the images of fear, loss, and courage very clearly. I was a boy when the war came into my life and stole my youth before I could even understand life. At that age, I could not understand hatred or politics, only the terror that followed each step I took. When the first bombs fell, the world screamed, and the ground shook beneath my trembling feet. We were only boys, heady uniforms too big, pretending we knew how to be soldiers. Hunger was always there, following us like a shadow that refused to leave our sides. Cold nights, wet clothes, frozen fingers, and hearts filled with constant fear. Sleep came in broken moments, interrupted by explosions, gunfire, or screaming somewhere nearby. Every morning I woke up felt like a miracle I did not deserve, though I was still alive. We marched for hours, sometimes days, without knowing what awaited us beyond the next hill. Orders were shouted louder than our thoughts, louder than our doubts, and we obeyed without question. Fear became part of us, something we carried inside every step of the way. And death became familiar, something we expected to see every single day. This photograph shows my first close friend, the first man I lost to the war, whose laughter I still hear. He laughed with me the night before battle, as if nothing terrible could happen. When morning came, he was gone, and I never saw his face again. We did not stop to mourn, because stopping often meant death. So we kept marching, carrying grief and fever deep inside. Lean bodies, memories, and pieces of ourselves behind. A battlefield never truly rested, even when everything seemed quiet, because the echoes of destruction were always present. Explosions haunted our nights, and the memory of them stayed in our minds, following us everywhere we went. Some nights I prayed softly, hope against hope that I would see another sunrise, that I would survive just one more day. Other nights I was too exhausted to even whisper a prayer, too numb from fear and hunger to care about tomorrow. These faces were my comrades, the men who stood beside me, shared bread with me, and faced death together on countless days. We shared everything, fear, food, silence, and in those moments, we became more than friends, we became brothers. One by one, they fell, and our line grew thinner, leaving me with memories I could never erase. I learned to recognize death before I ever learned to recognize peace, and its presence was constant. By the sound it made when it came near, by the absence it left behind when it was done. By the smell, the silence, the emptiness that followed, marking lives that would never return. The war aged us faster than any calendar ever could, taking years from our lives in the blink of an eye. My hands shook even when I tried to appear brave, even when I forced myself to keep moving forward. Blood became familiar to my eyes, and I could not look away even when I wanted to. And loss became familiar to my heart, carving deep lines of sorrow that never healed. This man saved my life without hesitation, pushing me away just before the blast took him from the world. He never stood up again, and I carried that weight with me. I survived and remembered him every step I took after. I carried both his courage and his death for the rest of my life. I asked myself many times why I lived while he did not. Even now, I feel the weight of that day like it is happening again. The war did not end for me when the fighting stopped and the weapons went silent. It followed me home quietly, settling deep inside my thoughts and my dreams. The silence after the war felt strange, heavy, and almost frightening. It was too quiet for men who had lived with constant noise. This is my brother, who left for the war and never returned home. He smiled when he left, believing he would come back soon. My mother waited for him every single day of her life. She waited until the very end, hoping for a miracle. The war destroyed families, not only soldiers. It took futures, hopes, and dreams away from people who never even held a weapon in their hands. When the war finally ended, I tried to return to a normal life, though I did not know what normal meant anymore. I worked every day, built a home, and tried to become the man the war had not allowed me to be. I married, I became a father, and I smiled often, even when my heart carried old wounds. My children never saw the battlefield, but the battlefield lived quietly inside me. These faces stayed young forever, frozen in time, while I continued to age year after year. They never felt the slow passing of time, the weight of memories, or the pain of growing old. I carried them with me through every chapter of my life, even when no one could see it. In my thoughts, in my silence, and in moments when I was completely alone. They followed me through quiet evenings and long nights filled with memories. And they appeared in my dreams, remind me of everything we lost. Many people told me I was lucky to survive the war and live a long life. They never understood that survival is not always a gift. Sometimes it is a heavy burden. Living with memories like these takes strength, patience, and a great deal of silence. It is heavier than any weapon I ever carried on my shoulders. This album is my promise to the men who never came home. A promise to remember their faces when the world forgets their names. To speak their stories aloud when they no longer have a voice. To keep them alive through memory, even after so many years. Even now when my voice is weak. Especially now, at the end of my life. My voice has grown tired, and my body moves slowly with each passing day. But my memories remain strong, clear, and painfully vivid. I tell this story carefully, choosing each word slowly, so that it is not lost when I am finally gone. This was us before the war changed everything we were. Entered our hearts and loss followed us everywhere. Before silence replaced laughter. I am the last one still alive. The last one who remembers all of it. Every face and every moment. I am not afraid of death anymore, because I have lived long enough. I have already said goodbye many times throughout my life. To friends who fell beside me on the battlefield. To family members who never returned home. They are waiting for me somewhere beyond this life. My comrades who stood beside me. My brother, he was younger than me, full of hope, and the war took him before life even began for him. All those taken too soon by the war still live inside my memory, as if they never truly left. One day, I will finally rest beside them, and maybe then my heart will feel lighter. When my time quietly comes, I will welcome it without fear, without anger, without regret. Until that day arrives, I sit here slowly remembering faces, voices, and moments from long ago. I remember every detail, even the ones I wish I could forget, because they shaped who I became. I speak now so the world does not forget what war truly does to human lives. So history does not repeat these mistakes, and young men never face what we faced. So their suffering is not meaningless, and their pain still carries a lesson. This story belongs to them more than it belongs to me, because they paid the highest price. My voice is fading now, growing softer with every year that passes. But the truth remains strong, even when my body and voice do not. I am 105 years old now, And I carried these memories my entire life. And I remember everything, every face, every loss, until my very last breath.